In this video, I will introduce you to the world's first real GMRS handheld walkie-talkie radio made specifically for normal people. Boys and girls, the new Midland GXT67 Pro. Now, first of all, right up front, allow me to make this as crystal clear as is humanly possible in my attempt to avoid stupid comments. This radio is designed for and marketed to normal people. That is to say that this new GMRS handheld walkie-talkie radio is for regular people that simply crave a full-power GMRS radio to keep in contact with their friends while hiking, off-roading, playing airsoft, driving, or whilst doing other vigorous activities and adventures. This radio is not intended for nor marketed to radio dorks. This means that if you sit on your couch and need a radio to make contacts, or if you lose sleep over things like SWR or spurious RF emissions, then this radio, and by the transitive property, this video, is not for you. So if I just described you, whilst I hope that we can still be friends, please just go away now. And if any of what I just said makes you feel sad, feel free to punish me by clicking the thumbs down button. As a matter of fact, if you really want to punish me, you should click the thumbs down button twice and really teach me a lesson. But before I get started telling you about the new Midland GXT67 Pro, allow me to tell you about today's sponsor. Nobody. Because nobody is worth making your YouTube viewing experience any worse than it already has to be. So if you are a YouTube superstar like me and you want to keep your YouTube videos as painless as possible for your viewers, then consider adding Nobody as your sponsor today. The price for the new Midland GXT67 Pro handheld walkie-talkie GMRS radio is about $200 of monies, but be not afraid and bear in mind that this is actually less monies than many other high-quality handheld GMRS walkie-talkie radios from those companies based in China. And of course, for your convenience, I will leave an affiliate link in the information section of this video below. And I should point out that the Midland Corporation did send me this radio at no cost because I am the queen of all that is GMRS. And I should also reiterate for those that may not be following along thus far that the new Midland GXT67 Pro is a GMRS radio. And according to our overlords at the FCCs, you must first purchase a permission slip, often referred to as a GMRS license, if you plan to transmit using this new radio. No license is required by the FCCs to purchase, own, or possess this radio. The FCCs have decreed that thou must haveth a permission slip only to transmit. So when you purchase the new Midland GXT67 Pro handheld GMRS walkie-talkie radio, in the box you will receive this very nice case. Actually, many might go so far as to describe this as a beautiful case. Irregardless of how you describe it, this case is far nicer than anything you will ever find from any of those companies based in China. You will receive a quick start guide and a user manual. Both the quick start guide and the user manual are written in perfect English, as one would expect from a company based right here in the heart of America. To be Pacific, based in the city of Kansas in Missouri. And whilst the radio itself is assembled in China, when you purchase this radio, at least most of the monies stays right here in America. So for all of you viewers that keep leaving stupid comments that you would never buy a GMRS radio from a company based in China, here you go. You will receive this very fancy belt clip. In fact, so fancy that it has almost an entire page dedicated to its installment, deployment, and proper usage. You will receive this charging cradle and the associated USB-C's cable. I will talk more about this momentarily. You will also receive this USB-C's power brick and this 12-volt charging cradle designed to plug into the cigarette lighter outlet hole in your vehicle. And you will receive the new Midland GXT67-Pro handheld GMRS walkie-talkie radio. As you can see with your very own ocular juice bags, the radio has a large lithium-ion battery. Nowhere does it indicate how many milliamp hours the battery holds, but that is radio dork stuff that only radio dorks care about. What normal people care about is that the battery in this radio has been lasting me for several days at a time. It does not look like the battery is made to be easily swapped out, and it cannot be charged directly. You must use the aforementioned charging cradle. And just for the record, this is the best feeling and best fitting radio charging cradle that I have ever seen or used for any radio that costs less than about $500. There's no guessing if you put it in right or wrong, and you know when it's charging. The radio drops right into the charger perfectly every time. And the charging indicator on the radio screen makes it unmistakable that the radio is indeed charging. Unlike many lesser, cheap Chinese junk radios that you have to fiddle and struggle with and hope and pray to Xenu that you get it in just right. The radio has a small, tough, rigid antenna that is not removable because normal people that just need to communicate with their group while adventuring do not need to remove the antenna. And if the fact that this antenna is not removable gives you the urge to leave a stupid comment complaining about the antenna not being removable, then this radio is not for you, and I already told you to go away. This radio has a large and very easy to read screen that works extremely well in bright, direct sunlight, perfect for use in vigorous outdoor adventuring. The screen has a very large... Oh, I almost forgot. There, that's better. The screen has very large and very easy to read indicators for power level, tones, bandwidth, repeater, blah, blah, blah. The volume knob is also very tight to help prevent accidentally changing it whilst engaging in vigorous activities. The radio feels very solid, and that is probably because it is a very solid radio. There's nothing loose, nothing floppy. Everything feels very well engineered and tight. As you may have already observed, the keypad is limited to only a few large and easy to press buttons. To change channels, you must first press the menu button. And this is the kind of thing that a radio dork that only ever uses his radio from the couch will just love to leave comments complaining about. However, anyone that actually uses their radio while hiking, off-roading, or for other adventuring will love this because it prevents you from accidentally changing the channels whilst engaged in your vigorous activities. And even though normal people will not care, nor should they care, I am going to mention it anyway. You will not find this anywhere in the sales ligature or on the box, but according to one of the marketing directors at the Midland Radio Corporation, based right here in Murica, this radio is a super heterodyne type radio. Again, let there be no mistake, normal people should not concern themselves with what this means, and I only point it out because so many of the experts love to leave comments complaining about any radio that is not a super heterodyne type radio, often declaring that if it is not a super heterodyne type radio, then it is nothing more than cheap Chinese junk. This radio is indeed a super heterodyne type radio. The menu system is different from all of the cheap Chinese radios, and it did take me a minute to get used to it because the menus are not complicated radio dork menus. Nay, the menus are actually simple and easy to use and easy to navigate. And another thing that I do not think I have ever seen in any of the radios from companies based in China, you use the push-to-talk trigger to go back or cancel whilst using the menus. This radio has an IP67 rating. Now, for those of you that are new to the exciting and dynamic world of two-way radios, this means that this radio is safe to play with in the bathtub with only one hand, leaving you free to do anything you want with the other hand. One of the features of this radio that not many other lesser radios made in China have is active noise canceling. When properly implemented, this means that if you are transmitting from a noisy environment, such as whilst driving with a wife in the seat next to you, when you transmit, the radio will cancel out much of the offending noise, allowing the person at the other end to be less likely to hear the pain and despair in your voice. Allow me to demonstrate.
This is me talking in a very loud and noisy environment with no noise cancellation enabled. How do I sound? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is me in a very noisy environment talking with the noise cancellation enabled. How do I sound? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
This radio is repeater capable, and out of the box, everything is set for wideband, and there are no stupid preset tones or codes on any of the channels, just as Xenu intended. And whilst the radio is repeater capable, the repeater channels are not enabled by default. This helps to keep the radio very simple to use right out of the box because many normal people have no need to use a repeater. The radio can receive all of the NOAA weather channels and NOAA weather alerts. The radio has 99 channels. Channels 1 through 22 are the preset GMRS channels that every GMRS radio has. There are 8 standard repeater channels, if enabled. There are 28 more preset channels that are regular GMRS channels, but are preset with privacy tones. So if you have 2 of these radios, or this radio and another radio that you know how to set tones on, you can talk between those 2 radios without having to hear any other noise or any other people talking on the channel. However, it is very important to note that irregardless of what Midland and other radio companies call them, these privacy tones do not keep your conversation private in any way. It simply blanks out all of the other people talking so you don't have to listen to them. However, they can still hear you. The remaining channels you can customize as repeaters or whatever else you want. As previously alluded to, right out of the box, the radio is ready to use. All of these standard GMRS channels and weather channels are pre-programmed. You simply turn it on, pick a channel, and start using it. You can do pretty much any custom programming right on the radio, the old-fashioned way. No software is required. However, if you want to add custom channel name labels, you will need the software. As far as I can see, that is the only thing that you cannot do directly on the radio. The software is very simple and very easy to use. However, you have to use the Midland cable. If you have a cable laying around that looks like this, it probably will not work. But let not your heart be troubled, because verily I say unto you that you do not need this cable or the software unless you are a radio dork in training. Midland says that this radio outputs 5 watts, even though only radio dorks care about that. However, because the antenna is not removable, I cannot test nor confirm the RF electricity's output. However, I can tell you how many FARs this radio has. Using this radio, I am able to hit my 2 favorite repeaters, one at 35 miles away, the other at 69 miles away. And I am able to talk to my friend Chris using his 5-watt handheld walkie-talkie radio at his house 10 miles away. However, I should point out that me and my compound are located on the high ground, far above the plebs below, which gives me not only the high ground advantage, but also very good line of sight. Line of sight to Chris's house. What I am saying is, your FARs will vary. The radio has no adjustable squelch, at least none that I can find, and this is probably because a manual squelch control is for radio dorks. However, in all of my testing and playing with this radio, I never once heard any static, so it sounds like the boys and girls at the Midland Corporation have finally licked the squelch problem. Unfortunately, like with all other Midland radios, the CTC and DTC tones still use a lookup table. For example, this means that if you want to use a repeater that uses CTCSS tone 67, you have to look up CTCSS 67 in the table to see what code to use on the radio. However, this radio shows you the lookup code and the tone on the menu when you're adding the tone into the radio. This is a huge improvement over all of the other Midland radios that I have ever used. This radio can listen to and monitor 2 channels at the same time. However, on this radio it works differently than I have ever seen on any other radio that I have ever used, and I like it. To enable the dual watch, you have to go into the menu and specify what 2 channels you want to monitor, and once you do that, the radio is locked into using only those 2 channels. If you switch channels on the radio, you are changing only between those 2 specified channels, and whenever anyone talks on either one of those 2 channels, you will hear it. The radio also has several other features that I do not really care about. However, as a responsible YouTube's superstar, and because I recognize that even though I may not care about them, you might, I will mention them anyway. As you can see, the radio does channel scanning. You can set up group calling to send a tone to everyone in your specified group before you talk. And the radio has a vibrate mode for group calls, so it can vibrate instead of using one of those call tones. And most importantly, and above all else, this radio does have a Roger beep. And the Roger beep is enabled by default right out of the box because the very smart radio engineers at the Midland Corporation of America recognize just how important the Roger beep is.